Hello, I am leavenelsonb, musician for Lonely Ghost Records, and this is Tellin with Ellen. Here, we will go over recent Lonely Ghost releases, as well as those from affiliated artists, in a quest to get liner notes that you cannot get in a digital era. I hope you enjoy. I like this angle better. I like having
I actually liked your other angle.
these floating monitors that I got now.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that you had those.
Yeah,
That's neat.
it is such an upgrade.
Uh, I will say though, I actually like the other angle better. I kind of like the wide angle on it. It was kind of felt like you were interviewing, like you're kind of at a distance. It looked cool, I thought. But this works too. Whatever you want, man. It's your show. I'm
Yeah.
just I'm just guest hosting. So let's want to dive in.
All right. Yeah. Let's get into it.
All right. So obviously, Nelson, this is only your second episode, and you already got a guest host here,
Yeah.
so that we can interview you without you just asking yourself questions, bouncing back and forth between screens or something. So you kind of obviously get the premise and the topics. You're going to talk about 3.x sinners. Are you going to talk about 3.0 saints also, or no?
I mean, I could. I mean, I think those albums are in tandem. You
I'm
know.
going to focus on sinners, but if you want to bring saints in too, feel free, because I do actually have a question that we're going to get into. So actually, let's get into that first. So, 3.0x Sinners is your new album that just came out on December 10th, obviously. I would say that it's a little bit funkier, a little bit more maybe in tune with things like down-tempo electronica and some of that ambient type electronic music that maybe is done well by like Gold Panda or Draftage, people like that. This is the closest to that I've heard you do, at least on your release tracks, which I thought was really cool. But I noticed that Free Done and No Respiration use at least some of the same vocal samples, but it sounded like they might be partner songs. So I was just wondering, are some of these songs partners specifically tied to some of the songs on 3.0 Saints? Because there's a few times here where I heard something where I was like, this sounds like it's related. So let's start there.
Yeah. When I have like samples that I use, and specifically for No Respiration and and Freedom, like I did those songs on the same day, and No Respiration was done because my sampler wasn't charged, and Freedom was done when my sampler was charged. So that
Interesting. Okay.
yeah. So like it was like two different methodologies with the same sample, and then no respiration ended up being like a happy accident type situation that ended up, I think, sounding better than the way I had mapped out in my head what I wanted it to sound like. And Freedom is more closer to what I wanted it to sound like. Actually, Freedom was actually I did that song for Red Veil actually originally, and
Oh, okay.
Red Veil, like, busy person, so it
Yeah.
didn't work out. It doesn't always work out, but yeah, that was a plan for that one. I believe it was in the summer, and we were talking about like having a compilation for BLM and stuff, and that was meant for that. So, but after a while, I just had I'm taking this. I like the song too much, to wait for a response. So, but yeah, like yeah, so some of these, yeah, the songs are related because like I like using samples until I'm done with them and
Okay.
seeing what can happen. And I consider 3.0 more happier than 3.x's.
Yeah, I definitely hear that.
Yeah,
3.x has a sort of, and I tend to kind of like gravitate towards melancholic electronic music in general. I really love that about a lot of the downtempo and ambient stuff, and I think that's part of what makes me think of that those genres of music and those types of artists is because it's a little bit sadder sounding. Yeah.
yeah, and those songs were more in tune for like speaking of like Freed Under No Inspiration. Like they were more done as a reaction to like the George Floyd killing, you
Yeah.
know, and like the frustration of how that feels, and just to try and capture that emotion without having actual words out there is it's a challenge that I take. I think Taylor from All C9 pretty much hit the nail on the head for No Respiration. Like, how can someone do this with vocal samples? And I remember listening to like old MF Doom records,
Which
and
one?
like Food and
Yeah.
Operation Doomsday, when like the scene is set through vocal chops from old
Yeah.
like cartoons or old movies,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you
It's a
know
theme through a lot of his albums. On what is it, Danger Doom? Also, they do a lot of that with Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
yeah, and it's something that I call back to. It's something that obviously inspired me, and yeah, I try to like have, so for songs that require that I want to have it, I try to have like a narrative, as it were.
Yeah. So, obviously this album is a kind of you call it a B-sides album. I don't know that that's totally fair for any of these tracks, but could you kind of explain how it is that these particular tracks ended up on this album? I know that you have others that you've
Uh,
decided not to use on albums in the past. I know that you have a lot of them. So what was it about these 9 tracks that really stood out to you or made you think like, you know what? I'm going to put out a whole another album.
uh, I didn't want 3.0 to be like a 20 track epic that like people didn't, that like I think it's easier to like to ignore those type of like really long ass albums.
Especially with instrumental albums. I
Yeah.
mean, no matter how good it is, you're kind of like too much of it and it gets a little bit.
No, I could sit down and listen to like a 25 track against all odds, album, or
Yeah.
or like a DJ Shadow or RJD2 album. But like that's not,
I
or
can't.
not
So
not everybody's built for that, like I'm not gonna put out like anything like more than like 30 minutes worth of material like
yeah.
at a single point, because I think that's enough people's time that I'm asking for. And I'd rather like put out like a lean good set of tracks. Not to say that these tracks weren't good enough to be on 3.0. I
Right.
think they are. Uh, especially but some of them, like I said, some of them have sister tracks, and like who wants to like that ruins the continuity of the record. At least as far as how I see it. And we have like tracks that sound similar or are sister tracks. I think it's more have like a bizarro shade of those songs come out later, as opposed to having them all come out at once, and have a listener sit there for like 45 minutes. Like I can't do that to somebody, because I would find that annoying. But
Well, and again, sonically, I do kind of think that they sound very different. Of the two, I actually like, I think 3.x is, I like more just because it's a little bit more just melancholic and sad and maybe a little bit more ambient in some of the sampling and things like that in general. It seems like a little bit of a softer album as well. And I really enjoy that about this collection of songs. And I definitely think that some of these songs, if they had been on 3.0, would have kind of slowed down an album that felt like it was moving very quickly. Like I
yeah,
remember sitting down and listening to that album one day and it was over and I was like in the middle of doing something and I was just like surprised how quick it went by. And I think that that's a really effective aspect of that album. I really like that you kind of, it moves you through kind of time, but you don't necessarily notice it.
yeah, man. I like having. I like being able to put in like I was just I have a Busta Rhymes album, and that's like 21 tracks, I think, and like it takes me like 3 like full trips of back and forth home to work, and yeah, because that's like a 25-minute trip, to get over that album. And At least I'll like mine done inside of like one to and fro trip to work. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that I think about often with like Lonely Ghost in general. A lot of the artists that we work with about, even the stuff I do too is kind of like I don't know if necessarily things have changed or not, but like I feel like sitting down and listening to like an hour and a half album it's like very challenging, and it's a challenge that oftentimes I fail. And like eventually I just kind of like move past it. If I can't consume it within, I don't know, around half an hour, I'm probably not going to listen to it often because, or I'm going to only listen to the same half or whatever, because like I don't usually pick an album up in the middle,
No,
eight
yeah.
hours later. I'm not in the mood anymore. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like one of those things where, I think that, yeah, those long albums can be really challenging. And again, I know that we all used to listen to stuff like that, like regularly, like an album being an hour long was pretty common, but like, I don't know how we did it, you know?
I think the last time that I actually like went out of my way to make to like really inconvenience my life for a record was when the last A Tribe Called Quest album came out,
Yeah.
and I stayed up to midnight and I like sat down and listened to that record on Spotify. Yeah, I bought the record. It was coming to my house, like the LP and the CD, because it's A Tribe Called Quest, and I
Well,
listened to that record like six
yeah.
times when it
And it
came
was a big
out.
comeback album, right? Like, I'm trying to think. Before that, they hadn't released an album in what, 20 years?
I think it was 17. I think,
I knew
yeah,
it was close. Yeah.
and like, yeah, that record was great for me, but like that's what it had to be. It had to be a group that I really like was waiting on an album since like 1998. Like
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna stay up and like I think before that it was like Run the Jewels 3 that I actually stayed up to midnight and like listened to a record like 3 or 4 times like back to back, you know, and those times are not necessarily all too common anymore. Like I said, like I've done it twice in like the last like 5 years, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't really so like I don't really watch a lot of TV like during the day or anything. Even if I'm home, I don't, and I have like kind of a weird schedule. But like I like podcasts, but like with albums, again, it's just like I tend to just gravitate towards those short albums with that have like a burst of energy and you feel like great, and then you move on. And so like I feel like you're onto something with this. Like your albums, you put out 3 this year, and they were all relatively short, and I think that they kind of leave you with a sense of like, yeah, I could put that on again, like pretty quickly. Like I could just hit start again, and you don't feel exhausted by it. And like I've noticed with so many artists now, they're releasing these kind of like these epically long albums. They'll have like 25, 26, 27 songs on them sometimes, or a double album, or 18 songs even. And it's like, I know that in the streaming age, that's kind of like a game, right? To like get your streams up, but I hate that. Like I hate that because I feel like there's so many good songs on those albums that don't really get the recognition that they would probably get if they were on a shorter album,
I
and those
definitely think
epic.
that
So,
I definitely think that Kanye West was onto something by doing a 7 track
yeah,
thing that he did a few summers ago. Like
yeah,
that Pusha T album was fantastic. The Kanye West album was pretty damn good in my opinion. In fact, that's like the perfect length to a Kanye West album, if you ask me. Like because I say about 7 tracks, 7 strong tracks is what he comes out with every time he does a record. Um, except for the last one, obviously. Um, but yeah,
well,
like
all of them were strong on that one. You liked all of them on his last one.
on the 7 track one, on like
He's this king or whatever.
well, yeah, the one where they're like, I'm bipolar
That
that
was Yee, right? That
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah, you're
yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, that was damn good. Like I really like that record.
Ever since Kanye has kind of like just like leaned in and embraced like all that mega bullshit. Like honestly, I haven't even. I like make a point of avoiding his music as much as possible. I know that we've talked about this before, and you're no longer like a Yay fan, but
I
either.
was a sycophant. I was a yay sycophant for a while. Now not so much because like
Yeah.
it's just not healthy, you know. But
Yeah, he's just he's doing too much harm, and like it sucks because like yeah, like for a long time, his production alone, it's just like you sit there and if you're into that kind of thing and you listen to it, you're just like, God damn, like I just and he had that era, he had like a few albums in there that were like that, but it's it's pretty wild. So let's go dive in a little bit deeper to each track. So Sintro is the first track on the album. So that's a weird
yes,
name for a song. I know that you like to play with the word intro on your intro tracks. This felt kind of like
yeah,
a throwback to the K-Quick a little bit there.
yeah. I did the Dolph intro, which was like
Yeah.
freehand played, and Centro was it was music that I've had that I liked. I liked that the piano riff that I sampled for that, and I also like like I centered a few keys myself, but I liked it. There was nothing I really could do with it besides like turn it into like an intro track and remove like everything but the kick drum and everything. Like and I wanted something that completely like clash with the rest of the album. Like I wanted something that sounded kind of happy, to lean into,
Yeah.
and it's a bright piece. It
It's
definitely,
dreamy. Yeah.
yeah,
It sounds like a fairy tale or something almost. Yeah.
yeah,
Like it
yeah.
gives you like a warm ambience. Yeah.
And so yeah, that was the point of including it to like like give a stark contrast to what comes after it. You know, that's basically the point of it. I probably made it too long when I listen to it now, but I like the track. I'll forever be proud of it. You know,
Was there any specific influence you had on that track? You said it kind of like stands out from the rest of them, is a little bit happier. Is there something that like made you make such a bright song?
uh, I the sound of the piano used in like that context, like it reminds me of like a soundtrack to like old Charlie Brown cartoons.
Okay.
And I wanted to have that kind of like childlike innocence, of when I used to like be sick and staying home from school and watching Charlie Brown cartoons like 3 o'clock on like the Disney Channel or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted that was probably what I was thinking of more often than not.
So we kind of touched on Free Done. I don't know if you anything else about that track. If so, feel free. If not, we could dive into Hope a little bit there.
Hope, Hope is an old track. Well, Hope is a old track that I came back to later, and
What
because
did you change?
well now
What did you change on the track from the first time to kind of like the revisit?
I completely redid the drums.
Okay.
Yeah, completely because it's the sample and how I chopped it stayed the same, but I didn't like it necessarily because like it just I don't know it didn't sound like I think it sounded too similar to other things that I've already done. And when I redid the drums on it, I'm like, okay, this is all right. I think I did that around the same time as the last track on a no yeah as the last track on a 3.0. Yeah, I did that like the day before, and yeah, because Irukasha sounds really big and really anthemic.
Yeah.
Like the main character just walked into the room type of vibe. At least
Yeah.
that's how I feel about it. And yeah, like and I have Hope, which sounds more subdued and more yeah, it sounds more subdued, more understated, but I really like the melody of it. And I think I had finally had something when I redid the drums to it and was more comfortable putting it out.
So
Plus, yeah, I have a vocal sample on there, I believe, uh,
yeah.
and that gave it a little more dynamics and yeah, they gave it more dynamics and made it more palatable for me. Like, and I actually listened to that song more more now than I did when I first finished it, and was like, okay, like, this can go on. You know.
It actually does kind of sound like a little bit hopeful. I don't know if like you got the name from the sound of it, or if you just decided that was the name of it and then kind of made a song to fit it, or you know.
Titles are always like the last thing that come, because usually it's like, as you know, like I had like a Mortal Kombat theme going on
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
3.0 with the
I
working
kind of I
titles
wish
of
they
the
would have
track.
changed. I wish they kept the name Goro. I love the name for that song.
But yeah, like yeah, most of my like, I think I still have songs with like working titles of like Chrono Trigger characters. You know,
Why don't you just use those? That's fucking sick. I'm a big fan, obviously.
I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess that would be a reason why people would gravitate towards some of my music, because,
Yeah.
but yeah, I really should keep my working titles.
Every single
But
title that you see on a Superdestroyer song is literally whatever the fuck I just pulled off my phone from a 2 a.m. thought or whatever. Like I don't double whatever song is next. I just look at the next title and assuming it's not like way off, like crazy. I'm just like, that's it. Like I feel like um, those titles are probably people hate that, but I don't know. I think they're more fun. You're a
yeah,
creative. I feel like it'd be fun to see.
yeah, I still refer to some of my 3.0 tracks as like Girl and Kang.
Yeah.
But yeah, hope was actually stay the same from working title all the way to all the way to the end. Like I kept I hope and hey, but hey is more obvious of why it's called hey. But yeah, that's hope.
So, with Cold Soul, we're talking about titles. You have other titles with cold in the name. I remember, I'm thinking of the cold one, right? Is that what it's called? No, the cold. What was that song called? It's on K Quick.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. But yeah, it's because it was literally cold that day, and it's a still sample.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I thought maybe it was
that
related.
was
That's what I was getting at. I
no,
was
no,
getting
no, no. That's literally like I made that in the
the
library, and
cold
I was
morning.
freezing. And yeah, because the NPC has like a standalone mode,
Yeah.
and which is like where some of these tracks came from. I think like half of this album was like from standalone mode, and the other half are like from like direct computer work. But yeah, I was in the library, and I was, I wanted a good view, so I sat by like this giant glass window, and this is last winter. This is
Yeah.
and ah man, 'cause I just got back from Chicago, and I just wanted to, I did not want to like, yeah, I just got back from Chicago, and I went to the library and sat by this big glass window because there was like outlets there that people weren't using, you know, and yeah, and I did this the soul thing, and I'm like, and I'm just, yeah, I need a title for this, and I'm freezing. I'm doing cold soul, and I actually really liked that. It was like one of the first like soul sample songs that I've actually done, and I think it the way the singing is chopped up, because yeah, the way the singing is chopped up, I really am proud of it, and how some of it fits together. Uh, I really got appreciation for people who use like for people who use soul samples after doing that, because if stuff doesn't work, it really doesn't work, and you like but it's more instinctual, I think, with soul samples. If you got it, you got it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah. There's a certain quality to a lot of the soul samples that you hear that oftentimes I feel like it adds up almost like I know soul can be very joyful in nature, but usually it's used almost as to kind of like create an atmosphere that's almost the opposite. It can feel very melancholic or just very kind of like um,
Like like anthemically pessimistic. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly, and it's and
yeah,
it's really so interesting because soul samples are like some of my favorite, but I'm not like necessarily like a huge consumer of soul music. But with Cold Soul, it's funny because as I was listening to it, I've been making ads, as you know, for things, And like I just see the music video for Earth, Wind and Fire's September, like all those people like dancing and playing fucking guitars and shit, and it's they look like they're in the fucking 70s. And I just imagine like a version of that with just like people melting
Yeah.
during this. I just kept seeing that, and I was just like, that would be like a really cool imagery for this. I don't know how we could do it, but like it just sounds like kind of like soul music, but like melting, you know. And I in like the best way possible. It's really cool.
Yeah, and that was my first time like really leaning into 808s as well. You know, like the TR 808 sounds. That was like the first time I really leaned hard into them. You know, yeah, Cold Soul is an earlier track. You know, I actually have more from that. You know, like time where I was like using soul samples,
Yeah,
and yeah, because this and Irokashu were both like soul sample type stuff, and those are the top two. Those are my favorite two that I did release, and but yeah, Cold Soul's great. It's great. I think it's like one of the few tracks where like a lot of my friends heard before it came out because
yeah,
I was so happy about it, you know. But yeah, I love the track. There was nothing I really wanted to express really, just that I can do this thing that most people that I grew up listening to can do. You
right.
know, like
Yeah,
have I earned the right to use these type of sounds and try to make this type of record? And I think I have.
yeah. No, I think the song works really well. And you know, you don't use a lot of vocal samples, or you do sometimes, but you don't use them, you know, in every single song or anything like that. And so it's really interesting hearing the soul samples. It kind of is like it's a different sort of texture in your music, and it's kind of a nice little it's kind of a nice little you know, tangential path that you kind of go down on this album. I feel like because it sticks out a little bit after what you hear beforehand, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, it definitely is a welcome change after hope and freedom. you know, at least I
uh,
think so. I started off the album kind of dark and didn't really offer like a clear path out of it, but just like that is for real life. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. So next we have Deacon Jones on this album.
Yeah,
This is
Deacon
one
Jones.
that you showed me way before it came out. I want to say this
Yeah,
well before it came out. I think at one point it might have been included on the 3.0 track list.
yeah, yeah. It was. This is probably the song that's most like the 2.0. So like it has more sounds that I use from 2.0 in it. You know, it's definitely done in the same way like as most of my 2.0 tracks, and I really like the track. I couldn't like obviously 2.0 has a particular methodology,
Right.
and you know this couldn't fit in in that vein, and 3.0 I think had enough upbeat stuff,
Yeah.
and this album was really lacking in the upbeat stuff. So yeah, it was easy for me to like, hey, yeah, Deacon Jones can wait a little bit. The song's about a year old now, I think. Yeah, I think the song's like just a little more than a year old at this point. But yeah, mixing and mastering, I think is probably the easiest of the tracks that I have on here. Because when I do things on standalone mode, I do them really like loud.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't leave myself a lot of headroom at all, which is a problem. But well, it is a problem if I send it off to a mastering technician, which I don't.
Right.
I do that stuff myself. You know, but yeah, Deacon Jones is great. I really like the trumpet phrasing on it. It makes it
Yeah.
sound like bigger than it is. And I like the snare drum. The snare drum in that on that one is like that's something you can only use once, and it had to be right. You know, like yeah, because certain things like like I don't want there to I don't want there to be like a methodology where it's like, oh yeah, Nelson did that. I try
Right.
to vary my sound enough to like not necessarily not have an identity, but oh, by the way, I can do this too.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a certain quality to your music where it's like it's not that it doesn't sound like the same person could have made it as much as like I feel like a lot of producers fall into this almost like trap of like they keep making the same song over and over again, and that works really well when you're going to put vocals on it, like pop producers, people like that. Even somebody like Clams Casino, where you can go through a lot of his older stuff, and he has these instrumental albums that he also has people who sang on. Some of the stuff that was that he created for some of those albums ended up on like ASAP Rocky albums and stuff, and like they're great songs, but if you listen to them all in one sitting, they're very similar songs. And you can start to be like, you kind of have this way you make music and you can hear it in every single thing that you do. And like with yours, it's a little bit more diverse. And I think that that does make for maybe a better, more interesting listen, especially when you get to instrumental tracks, because, when they get repetitive, it can be boring. I mean,
Well,
it's,
yeah, and I remember listening to the first RGD2 album when I was a kid and loving it, but at a certain point you start to hear a certain, RJD2-ness,
yeah,
in his music. And his next album was like a completely different era of RJD2. And all of a sudden you couldn't pin out, you couldn't like just finger out an RJD2 track on, an album. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And like let's say like somebody like LP. LP has a certain aesthetic, has a certain, like, you can tell when LP has done a track for somebody.
right, yeah,
The drums are really present, and like there's a distortion. There's like an old like New York type of sound
yeah.
to it, and
Sounds like a city almost.
yeah, it sounds like a set piece. It's a complete set piece, and you can tell like when LP has had a hand in doing something.
It sounds almost like comically. It sounds almost like cartoon or comic like villains.
Yeah, yeah,
Like the
yeah.
music you would hear them kind of like do something to. I don't know. Like
But like I never wanted that for myself. I never wanted that. Wanted somebody to be like, oh, okay, that's Nelson, and I never wanted to like maybe later in my career I'll gravitate more towards that, and even if like even with the sequel to 2.0 that I'm working on now, like I want to say those songs are different enough from 2.0,
they're very,
to
yeah,
to like not like to like throw off people that like know that this is going to be something that's done in the spirit of 2.0, but
right,
it's not going to be 2.0 again. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, and like like we were talking about LP. Like imagine listening to an instrumental Run the Jewels album. Like as cool as it would sound with vocals on it, it will sound terrible without them. I would not want to hear that. You know what I mean? So like. I
I
think that
mean,
you're onto something there. I think that that stuff again only works when you're working with people who are going to put vocals on it. Like I listen to a lot of down tempo electronica, like sample based music that doesn't really have vocals. And like the trick is to not make every song sound the same, to kind of like explore an idea in each track. And it seems like you've kind of done this. Before we move off Deacon Jones, is there any reason specifically for that name?
when I was a kid and like I had like little like 10-inch like Magnavox television set, and there's I never saw the show, but I saw an ad for a show that Deacon Jones, the he was, I believe he was a defensive end. Yeah, he was a defensive end in the NFL for a long time. He had this thing called the head slap that he would do. Like he would literally like slap like the lineman's head to get around him, and that's what the snare drum felt like like it did, especially at the volume that I heard it on the MPC on the MPC, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I called it Deacon Jones to like because it reminded me of like the head slap, because he like I remember him talking about the show that he was in, and him introducing himself, and him introducing himself is him telling you about the head slap, which is like extremely illegal move to do now. But
Yeah, it's trademark. Give his
yeah, it's his
brain
trademark.
damage.
But yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I call it Deacon John. And plus, like I believe it played into like the religion theme that I was going
Yeah,
for.
okay, and that's where I thought maybe you were taking it. So I did not expect it to be a reference to a football player at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, it played into the religion theme that I was going for at the time, and which I like pretty much since abandoned. But yeah, Deacon Jones is yeah is when I first started thinking about saints and sinners. That was like a song that definitely fit the original. Well, not I shouldn't say original, but the first vision that I had for it, which has
Gotcha.
since changed.
Because that was another one that I felt like existed for quite a while. I want to say you sent me a Funeral Homes remix that's not even out yet. At the same time that you
Yeah.
sent me Jones, yeah, yeah. So that must have been, I don't know, this January, this February, maybe. It was before COVID hit. Well, before we all locked down anyway.
Yeah, it was probably around when 2.0 came out,
Yeah, it
like,
was.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, it was cold out. I remember that. All right, so next we got Wallace. So
Wallace. I
we've
love.
seen the trailers for this. You had some trailers for this and stuff like that. This song sticks out in my head a little bit more just because I've heard it probably the most of any of them. So why did you name it Wallace?
Wallace was a. It was supposed to be like a free song that I wanted to put out there. I've because I was going through like I came in contact with a singer, and I wanted to redo Wallace by Azalea Banks,
Okay.
and I wanted to make it more like a slower, jazzier type of affair. I really love the original, and I love Azalea Banks. Azalea Banks, I think, is a way better artist than people give her credit for. Um, and I really wanted this to work, and it did not work. It didn't work out. I still managed to have some of her vocal phrases, as they're in the record.
Right.
Like I paid for these, I'm gonna use them.
Right.
Like and and that's where the title came from. Yeah, that's why it's called Wallace, because it was named after the song, and I didn't want to change the name of it. Like I still have that admiration for the original song. Even though it doesn't sample anything from the original song. It was supposed to be like a reinterpretation of it. Like not too unlike Fergie's national anthem. Like stuff like.
Yeah. Yeah. So like the first thing I thought of when I heard this song and saw the name was like Marcellus Wallace from Pulp Fiction. So I thought maybe it was a reference to that. It's just who I don't know why my brain went there, but like hearing this song and seeing that name, like literally, I just can't help but think of Marcellus Wallace. It's just like what comes in my brain for some reason. Um, I suppose it does have like a little bit of a darker sound. Maybe that's part of it. It kind of reminds me of something that could be playing in that strip club that he's always hanging out in, but it's a cool song. I really, I mean, honestly, I really enjoy all the songs on this album.
I think Wallace is probably my favorite song on the record, to be honest. And it's a sister song to Miss Erica Wallace, and Framed after it. They're both like those three songs are all like low tempo, like really like in a sample really like bright. Well, that, and I shouldn't say bright, but really like orchestral and like music that has like a lot of like instruments or really deep like chord progressions. I think what
Right.
Wallace's piano phrasing is amazing. Like I really like the original sample, the original sample for that track. I think it's beautiful too.
Yeah.
Which is what I think the song that it was supposed to be deserved. So, but I really like the song in its own right, and yeah, like I said, it's probably like my favorite song on 3.x. I think it embodies the idea of sinners and how I feel about the word sinners, and how you have like this negative connotation, but there's still a lot that can be like taken out
Right.
of it. There's still a lot of good things that can be taken out of this so-called bad
Right.
thing. you
Right.
know
And I kind of like that the story of the song fits really well with like that overarching idea in general. It's like kind of like you mine this like good thing out of something that, at the time you had seen as kind of like a failure. So
Well, I mean, things don't work out. And I think as a somebody who does music, especially in like pandemic times, like the death of a song is not because like the original plan for it failed. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, a lot of stuff just is not viable. A lot of things that people were doing beforehand, just it's hard to have access to the right equipment. It's hard to have access to the right time. You're stuck inside probably with, if you don't live alone, with other people, and that really can inhibit music production. I feel
well,
bad for my neighbors. Like,
if you're doing music, you're gonna get burnt.
yeah,
That's the reality of
that's,
the music business. You know, whether you're an indie guy or you're working in a major label, when you find
yeah,
yourself in a business in which you are clearly dependent on other people to get like collaborations and stuff done, you're gonna get burnt. It happens. You can place bets on it. You know, like
I
and
assume it actually.
yeah.
I assume like 1 out of 10 collaborations I pitch make it to like something that's even close to being released. I would say almost none of them end up released, but like it's rare that people even kind of like follow through and you end up with like what you hope to. So, and that's okay. I've done it to people too. It's
Well, no,
every,
like people are busy. We're adults.
yeah,
Like we're in our 30s, and like it's reality of life. Like some
yeah,
people have kids. Some people like I work in healthcare during a pandemic. Like
yeah,
like there's a thing
yeah,
that it's like life is not predictable like that, but also like people get busy.
yeah,
Like I don't begrudge Red Veil for not doing the track. Like I'll feel better if like they told me like, hey, by the way, I'm busy. This can't work right now. But like, but yeah, but sometimes people can't do that. Like I had a situation with Amanda Palmer like a couple years ago.
Oh, was it even
And
a couple years ago? I think that was last
yeah,
year.
yeah, it was a while ago, man.
I
Uh,
don't think it's like you think. It was like a year ago, dude. I'm pretty sure because we were working with Dean, and we've only worked with Dean for a year and a half.
oh man, so like yeah, I
Yeah,
had a situation with Amanda Palmer, and like she never got back to me, and like, well, people get busy, like
yeah,
it happens, it happens, and like it's just the reality of the business, and like I'm not the only person in people's ear, like they
yeah,
pretty sure they got other people working out, and but like, with the situation with Wallace is that like it was like more like I did some things and now I can't do it, so I'm just going to take the money and run type of situation, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
yeah,
I still got things I could use out of it. I still got a song that I really like. Not only really like, but one of my favorite songs, and you know, like how I feel now about the lady, I can't say she didn't do a good job. So,
right.
you
Yeah,
know, I'm definitely
and
not going to
I
credit
guess
her and give her any views or anything. But yeah, like it's you know, I really like this record. And Wallace, I think it was like the point in which like there's going to be some darkness here. I think back when this was all one record, uh, that was going to be like the darker middle turn before it picked back up. But when I decided to part it out, like okay, these songs are going to work really well together.
yeah. So next we got Framed, which you said kind of goes with Wallace. They were made around the same time. They're kind of similar songs.
Yep.
So the name again, Framed, could mean a lot of different things. So let's start there. What's inspires that name?
Um, I believe I did that song when "Pray for Paris" came out from West Side
Oh
Gun,
yeah, yeah. What's like?
and yeah, and I think "Framed" was a reference to like his album cover and how he like commissioned out like uh, 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 uh what's that artist name?
Oh, I have no
Because I think
idea.
he also did Juice World's album cover like his post. But anyway, um, but yeah, it was a reference to his like his album cover, and yeah, it was basically like my version of like how to do like the Griselda sound. Like I'm really stretching my muscle here on 3.x as to like what I can do, and this is how I interpret like a Griselda song, and I think it's more dynamic. I think it has like those lighter like the lighter section of that song is probably really was like one of the hardest things to include, but it needed that. Like you can't just have that old dark 70s like rock, guitar solo thing going on. You have to have something that complements that, and I think that song really works between the lighter bridges on that song as opposed to like the darker sections of it.
Yeah.
And I like the Griselda sound. I really do.
I do
Most of
too. I think West Side Gun's another artist that like is better when he's short. By the way, I looked up the artist who did that, Virgil Abloh.
Yes,
I felt
yes,
bad not including their name since it was important. But West Side Gun's another artist where like I love his songs, but like I wish they're about half as long. And sometimes I feel like even his albums are a bit too long just because he does have kind of a repetitive, he gravitates towards a certain type of beat. The
yeah.
instrumentals he chooses kind of, they get to start sounding similar. And they're sweet and they sound good and he's great on them. But like, yeah, he's somebody who I get like I didn't really listen to his album a lot of times because I kind of was like over like I was satisfied when I
Yeah,
finished.
yeah, you get it. You get it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
got what
Yeah,
I got out of this. It's not bad. It's not whack.
right.
But
Yeah.
I got it. Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and and so it's interesting because again, like it just kind of fits in with what we've been talking about a little bit with some of that stuff of like it's particularly his production that gets me where it's like I love every single one of these on their own, but when I listen to 15 of them in a row, I'm happy when it's over too. Like I get it by the end. It's like these really great songs are almost not great because like I've heard too much of it.
man, I mean, I think for me personally, not as a slight to West Side Gun at all. It's just like I really enjoy like what's like Griselda records. I think are best, at least before From King to God came out, because I think after From King to God came out, the Conway the Machine record, like, and the last like Benny the Butcher record, because I haven't heard the last West Side Gun record yet, but those are very dynamic records. Those are records that really stretch like what a Griselda album can be, and they're really like commercial sounding.
Yeah,
I shouldn't say commercial sounding, but they're definitely,
consumable. Yeah,
yeah, they're more consumable and they're more dynamic. Whereas before, like you can like I could put on like a Tana Talk 2 and like get like a whole bunch of shit done. Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I could put on Pray for Paris and like do like cardio for for the entire lift of
yeah,
that album, because it's so driving and it's such a force and it keeps you going, like I'll say like West Side Gun records are like best for like working out,
yeah.
like
Literally, that's when I listen
yeah,
to West Side Guns albums. Usually, it's like if I'm just like lifting or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
uh,
like yeah you have you have this because West Side Gun reminds me of my father, like because my dad's not a tall guy. He's a little guy. He's like 5 foot, like he's like 5'4", 5'3" or some shit.
okay.
And but he was fearless, and that's what West Side Gun reminds me of. Like the
Yeah,
both from New York, by the way, both from like
yeah,
like upstate New York, but yeah, that's what West Side Gun reminds me of. Like just this like fearless dude that may not be like the
yeah. He has a
biggest
certain
like
swagger.
yeah,
Yeah, like, he really does. It comes through in his lyrics. Like he just sometimes you just listen to this guy and you're like, he doesn't give a fuck, huh? Like he just literally does not give a fuck.
and I really like that record, and I think Framed like put it like I think Frame is like an exposition of my appreciation for that, and a lot of these tracks I do pay tribute, like excuse me, like Manny Fresh from 3.0 is a tribute to Manny Fresh, and like this one's a tribute to like Derringer from Griselda, you know, and even though it has like a lighter section that you probably would never include, But yeah, it's a I really like that I was able to do this. Like
Yeah.
I'm really proud of myself for able to do a record like Framed. Especially the way it ends, I think is really good. So
Um,
good. And right after Wallace too. I really like that.
and leading into Hey, which is like a very like surreal song. Like it kind of has this surrealist kind of tilt to it where it almost sounds as if like reality has been bent and you're like experiencing this alternative version of life or something. Like I put it on and I was walking through the grocery store and it made the grocery store feel like I'd never been to a grocery store before. Like you're just kind of like transported into like this bizarro world with that song. At least for me it does. And I don't know. I think that it's a really fascinating song. So how'd that come about?
Hey is like I want a song that forced people to move. And I think that the drums actually like kind of like force you like at least get your head nodding or something like that.
Yeah.
I really wanted a song that really forced you to move and like like actually like take you out of the 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 darkness of Wallace and Framed. Like
I don't know
and
because to me like I know you kind of talk about it as if it's like a kind of a happy upbeat song, but it sounds kind of like sad to me. Like there's a certain melancholy twinge to it of like I don't know if you pitch shifted that like ambient kind of synthy sound that's kind of like in the sides of your head when you're hearing it or what, but like that kind of surrealist sound that comes with it almost has like a little bit of a melancholic tilt.
oh yeah, when I think of that song, I think of like like the like Pan's Labyrinth. I think you
Oh,
know
okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I could see that.
like where like it's not necessarily sad. Oh, I mean Pan's Labyrinth. When you think about the little girl's life, yeah, it's sad as shit.
It is a lot of sad. Everything is sad if
but
you want it to be.
but you
Modest
still
Mouse taught me
but you
that.
still but you still have like this whimsical quality to it,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah,
and I think that's what I think of when I think of Hey. Like
yeah.
you still have the funky drum beat that you can't resist moving to, and you still have the cadence of Hey. You still have this chant, but like the synth lead in that is basically like it's not pure happiness, but there's a whimsical darkness to it, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and
I would agree with that. Did you create that synth line yourself, or was that a sample?
it was originally going to be a sample, but I managed to like play over it
Okay,
because it was a guitar sample, and
I like the synth better. Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, I managed to play over it, and it was definitely a good choice.
yeah. I with guitar, that would be a very different vibe. It would not have kind of that whimsical aspect to it.
Yeah,
Um, and so then finally, is it Gemma or Gemma?
Gemma,
Gemma. Okay,
Gemma.
that's what I thought it was. And that also, am I crazy or was that supposed to be on 3.0?
Yeah, it was. But
Okay, yeah, that was one of them that got cut.
what was what replaced? Because no, nothing replaced it.
Nothing replaced it. It got
Yeah, no,
short.
yeah. It just got straight up cut because I had Gemma and oh man, Gemma's the sister. No, Gemma and Donna are sister songs. Both named after really good English friends of mine.
Gotcha.
So yeah. So yeah, Donna being one of my more popular Spotify songs. I don't get that at all because yeah, it's the oldest song on 3.0. And but like yeah, Gemma, yeah, I named after one of my dear friends, and that's probably like the last song I made before I got my computer. Like yeah, I think yeah, that's the last, and because I really challenged myself to make this song work because everything is separate. Like all the like at the end of it when all you hear is like the cellos and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like all those are samples, but all those samples came in layers, and I really had to combine all those to make them work. I had to pitch shift everything
Oh
down
wow.
like 2 cents, to make it work. Like everything like that was the real challenge. I had to like export and read add
Yeah.
layers and export and re add layers to make it work on the MPC. And but yeah, I just really wanted it to work and like and to sound like something that was big, something that was something that was way bigger than what it was, and especially from a mixing standpoint to have like that had to do this type of thing was like a challenge in itself. But I really like Gemma. Gemma was when I finished it, especially once I got because the ending of it, where it cuts to the cello, where it cuts to just the cellos, like I originally did not have that there. That was not supposed to be there, you know. But
Yeah.
eventually I felt like okay, the song is not done yet.
Right. And
So I managed to figure out what it needed, and I haven't done drums like that since. That was yeah, because that's the same. The finger snap on that song was the same finger snap from How Some from 2.0 actually. You
okay.
know, so yeah, that was the last one I included any sounds that was from 2.0.
Which I kind of understand that. Um, changing up those kind of those sounds, especially things like hi-hats and snaps and things that would kind of be in that higher range of like the drums, I think adds a lot of texture and character to the songs. Like when you mix that up, it kind of helps to set the certain mood. So I think that was like I really like that about this album is also that the drums are not necessarily all like the same.
Oh yeah, and I think for this era of songs, I instead of looking at drums as like as how I used to, I looked at them as like information. You know what I mean? Like okay, like drums are meant to tell the listener, in a traditional sense, where the one and the two is in the rhythm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I kind of attacked the drums on this record like that, and plus there's a lot of definitely lower tempo stuff on here than I
Yeah.
usually do, especially with Framed and Wallace. Like going down to the 70s is something I usually never ever did, but like I did here, and it worked out fine. It worked out great, and I'm really proud. I'm really am happy with this one. And it's like I said, so it's a slower record. It's a longer record, and I managed to like make something that I think is just as good as its sister record. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually think I'm a little bit partial to 3.x in general. So I want to bring up equipment. You've kind of kept bringing up the MPC that you use, as well as your laptop, or well, just music computer. I don't think it's a laptop anymore, right? It's
Yeah,
a yeah.
yeah,
But so like, what kind of equipment are you using when you're producing these? And I know that you've kind of touched on it, so I don't know how deep you really want to go, but yeah.
yeah. Like basically, this is all the equipment that I use.
Okay,
This
so
being the MPC Live.
okay.
This being the a Kai Fire that I used. When I
It looks like almost like an 808 sequencer type deal, huh?
yeah, but basically it's the interface that it's a
Right.
physical touch interface for FL Studio,
Gotcha.
and behind the NPC is a computer that I built earlier this year.
Yeah.
That yeah, I built that around April, and that's basically was like the birth of my creative peak that I've hit and have yet to let go of. So but yeah, like that's basically everything that I use. I did yeah, I even used the Kai Fire as like a keyboard. I did not use a MIDI keyboard this time around. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I try to challenge myself now, you know, which is kind of like the opposite of what people usually do. Like usually it's like get as much equipment as you can, and
Yeah.
use the new toys. But like I haven't really.
So, I gotta say, like, I haven't bought a new instrument beyond like something that like I literally needed, like an electronic drum kit, or like my girlfriend gave me a bass that she used to use or whatever. Like, I don't, I like to challenge myself in the same way of kind of like, I think you're more creative when you have limited resources. When you have unlimited resources, you can just like find the thing that's supposed to do whatever it is you want to do. But like when you don't have that, you compromise or you try to like innovate and find a way to kind of do this thing that you're interested in like a different way or a new way or whatever. And like, I think that that's like a much better creative process, or at least that inspires a much more substantial amount of creativity than when you can kind of just like play the instrument or create the sound directly on the thing, you know, that's supposed to do it, whether it be a certain type of keyboard or whatever. Um, and like honestly, in some ways, like I think some of my most creative times are when I only owned a keyboard. You know, like I just didn't have anything else to record with, and it sounds like maybe you're tapping into the same kind of idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, like back when I when I made a point five, that just seems like forever ago. I'm on 3.0. Back when I made
That was like
3.5,
what, 2 years ago?
that was 2017 when I released that. Yeah, so
Sure,
but
yeah.
but yeah, back when I made point five, like I did not know, like I literally did not know what compression was. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, either that or I just learned what compression was. And like some of those tracks, like in order for me to compress, like I had to get the song at max volume. Oh, get this like track, the stem at max volume, export that stem, re-import it, max volume it again, export it, and reintroduce it at max volume again before I got it at the right level. Like
Yeah.
that was like my Fisher Price like compressor on GarageBand. I don't think GarageBand had a good compression a good compression plugin. I don't think it did. At least not at that time anyway. Like because at this point I've already been to Suma, which is where Attack and Release from Black Keys was recorded.
Okay.
I've been to the studio at school, and like songs from that record actually like hit those studios. Like I believe Lean in Miami was mixed on the same recording console as Attack and Release, which was it still blows my mind that that that
Yeah.
happened. But I wish that studio was still open too. Oh man, I really do. I would go back. I would definitely go back to that studio if I,
Imagine what you'd be making now, though. Yeah.
but like, I mean, it was just basically to use the console and the old equipment. I think there's a different color. There's a certain color that EP has that is thanks to like old limiters and things of that nature. And because like I did it in such a like it's the most DIY thing I've ever done. Like, oh, you don't have a compressor? Oh, don't worry, I'll just export it. And like that, like it seemed like such an obvious thing to do. Whereas when I actually did get like Cubase finally, and oh, there's actual compressor here,
Yeah. Well, to be fair,
and
I was kind of in the same boat where I'd be like, "What is wrong with these tracks?" You know, I didn't know how to like deal with gain and stuff, and it was just like, I don't know, like you do the weirdest shit, and it sounds like you did the weirdest shit, you know, in your songs. Like when you look back at some of the things, not necessarily yours in particular, but just in general, you can look back at old songs you make, and you're like, "The fuck did I do here?" Like, you could tell I didn't know what I was doing, you know.
well,
So
yeah. I mean, sometimes like the backwards way is kind of like the way to do it. Like I don't like using flangers and stuff like that. I'd rather just export a track and have it. I'd rather just export a track twice and just have it, like have them side chain and pan at different points, and rather than have like a chorus or a flanger or something like that. Like and those are things that I've learned from just like doing the DIY thing. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and it's having those type of challenges and like it definitely forces you to innovate. It definitely forces you to learn how signal works, and which is something I did not know for the longest time. When making music, how actual digital signal works, and how putting things in, especially like plugins in order. Like and the quality of like the free plugins that I used to get, you know, and how they may affect your track and stuff like that. Like there's certain challenges that you need that people should give themselves. You know,
Yeah.
like I will never be a proponent of like Pro Tools unless you're like, you know, an expert on stuff. Like I wouldn't say anybody who's just starting out should use Pro Tools, even though
It's very
there's like,
intimidating and expensive.
well,
So
I mean, there's a free version of it, I believe, but like I'm not gonna tell somebody like there's like toxic like Reddit like communities for musicians and people starting out, and basically it's like a shopping list of like the most expensive shit, and nobody's like interested in actually helping out, you know,
yeah,
musicians. And you know, I get downvoted because I'm like, no, man, just like spend like get the lowest version of FL Studio, you know, which is like I
yeah,
think like $100 or some shit, you know, if that. And especially I think now it's actually on sale. If you want FL Studio, you can get it for the cheap right now, you know, which is where my last two records were made, you know. Oh yeah,
yeah,
last two records were made. And but no, people want people to spend like hundreds of dollars, and this is where like scams come in, you know,
right.
like, you know, like, no, you need this plugin, or no, no, he doesn't need that plugin. FL Studio has pretty nice reverb plugins in there, like
Yeah,
you know, like, and like yeah, those things like there's a reason why things cost as much as they do, you know, and that's because you can do shit with them. You know,
yeah,
like I'm pretty sure I can use Reason if I want to. I just don't want to. But I'm not going to tell somebody they shouldn't use it. It's very pretty software. I will say that. And the rack plugin is pretty freaking nice too. But that's what Reason is. It's $100. It's $100 plugin that comes with a DAW. And that's exactly what it is. But you know, but yeah, like you know, I like being open with the stuff that I use and with the challenge that I pose to myself, because I think people should know that this stuff is accessible. I remember when Little Brother came out, and Knife Wonder using Fruity Loops was like the thing that actually, that piece of information that made me start, you know, doing music, because I'm like, oh shit,
yeah,
he just has this. Like a man can do this with just this. I gotta be able to figure this out at some point. You know, I'm not saying that I can do what Knife Wonder does, but you know, like I can now do what I do with it, and
right.
that's more than enough for me.
I was gonna say, well, isn't that the most important thing? Like,
Yeah.
it's like that's what I
And
tell people.
that's what started it. Like that one piece of information,
Yeah,
that Knife Wonder did this with this software is what like is like the linchpin of my music career. Like,
yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, that's how I feel about equipment and like interfaces and all that kind of stuff. Is just like you don't need the most expensive interface. You don't need the most expensive guitar. You don't need the most expensive DAW. You can scrape by. You just got to be able to make what it is that you're trying to make. And a lot of the times, like the best way to get into music, in my opinion, is to use the shitty, cheapest version possible first. At least know what it is that you're trying to do, and then invest based on what you know now that you need versus buying something super expensive, recognizing that the thing that you need is going to cost another $300 worth of plugins when you could have done it over here for less, even if it wouldn't have been as good or whatever. Like, that's the kind of thing that I think people have to think about, and it's like this idea that like I see people talk all the time and they're like guitar snobs, and it's like, I've recorded every fucking
oh,
song I've ever made on one of two.
how many pickups, bro?
Yeah, like I have two guitars, and Superdestroyer uses all that electric shit as a fucking nylon acoustic guitar, nylon string electric acoustic guitar. Everything is made on that. Like you don't need 15 guitars to make the tone sound interesting. Like just do whatever you want with it, mess around with it, layer tracks, whatever. But like there's so many ways that you can like make something sound cool. And as long as you think it sounds cool, like I don't know, fuck it, right?
I
Um,
mean, because like I remember hearing like Madlib, he did the Freddie Gibbs album, like most of those beats on that album on an iPad. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like there's
exactly.
there's no limit to that. I mean, it's easier to say now, but like I can get how he did that. You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah,
and like yeah, he's like a fucking like subject matter expert when it comes to making music anyway. But like, and the fact that I can do like I can do what I do on just like two pieces of software is like confound is like really really confounding to me. Like stuff that I actually like I still listen to 2.0 like now, and
Yeah.
amazed of like how did I fucking come to that conclusion of the song, you know, and you know, to be able to do that, to surprise even yourself with limited resources, and
Yeah.
you know, and just like putting in time and learning these things, and you know, like watching like YouTube videos, and like I took an audio production class, which you know landed me in you know the recording studio that I mentioned earlier. You know, like a lot of years and a lot of education went into it, and like I'm not a classically trained guy, you know, like this is brute force that for through sheer brute force that I'm able to do this, you know.
Yeah, it's just willpower.
Yeah, just
Um,
yeah, just sheer will. So yeah, that's why I like to share equipment. You know, if I had a jacket, you know, a record jacket, I would definitely list the equipment that I used. You know, I'll definitely list my PC specs. You know, because it's not the best spec PC ever. Like, yeah, I literally have like an Intel like Kaby Lake processor with 4 cores and 4 threads, and it's able to do what I wanted to do. It's not the best computer in the world, but you know, it definitely is the nicest computer I've ever owned.
Super
So
Straight being recorded on a 7-year-old laptop. So I mean, hey, whatever works, right? Um, so as far as you also wanted to cover others involved in something. So like, was there anybody else involved with the making of this album that you wanted to shout out or give credit?
Chuck did Wallace. They did the bass for Wallace, and I think like yeah, Chuck doing the bass for Wallace is something that I sent it to him after the singer flaked out, and I couldn't I couldn't do like it was missing something, and Chuck definitely helped me figure out what was missing with that when he sent the track back, and yeah, that bass line for Wallace is bananas. Like Chuck always does really good work, and yeah, he definitely helped me out with Wallace a ton. You know, like I said, that's my favorite song on here. Probably one of my favorite songs I've released thus far. You know, so yeah, that's definitely another who somebody who was involved. I didn't sample anybody for well, anybody that wasn't like royalty free for 3.x. But for I want to thank Brad for letting me use Houses and Hotels for 3.0. Uh, I think those songs are. I think people really like those songs, the Houses and Hotels songs on 3.0. There's 2 of them, and I believe he just recorded a new record actually, which I can't wait
Cool.
to get my hands on. So, but yeah, he's a local Akron-based musician, and you know, like yeah, yeah, those are the others who are involved in my music endeavors as of lately. There's a lot more people I could thank, and what's coming in 2021, but you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's there's uh like Holy Kerouac, like when something about this needs to change. When that came out, I didn't like write a song for like a month after that. Like you know,
Oh,
and
closer now more than ever. You mean? Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
close now more than ever. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
Something about that. That's Alex. Yeah.
oh yeah, I don't know. God damn, and I just listened to that record too. I literally like listened to it like earlier today.
I love the name
Um,
of that. Like, I love the name of that Holy Kerouac EP.
yeah,
It's
and but
very
yeah,
simple
yeah, I
and
didn't
like
write a
it's so
song for like a
catchy.
month before that, and after that, and you know, I think that definitely it definitely made me want to do the narrative thing with vocal skits. You know,
Yeah.
definitely I because I couldn't just like I don't know, you can't really follow up that kind of record like that. I remember thinking, man, like the post the singularity because like at the time of this recording, like funeral homes is year is like in like an hour and a half. You know, like an hour and a half, it'll be a year
Yeah.
since Lavender House came out. I think the post Lavender House Lonely Ghost catalog has been terribly inspiring. Like just one great record after the next, and Yeah, definitely close now more than ever. In Shag Lab, that definitely put a battery in me, and I have yet to stop making music. So
Yeah. Well, you know, and that's true. Like everybody, it seems like no matter what comes out, it's like, damn, that's fucking crazy that we just put that out. And then you hear something else and you're like, Jesus Christ, this is the best thing we've ever put out. And then the next album, it's like, Jesus Christ, this is the best thing we've ever put out. And it's just like, it just keeps happening, which is good. I think that we can really see everybody's just like exponentially growing right now. And they're just getting like really good at what they do. And I think it's because Lonely Ghost is a bunch of people like yourself, like me, sit in a bedroom by themselves and kind of just fuck around until they make something they like.
oh yeah, I mean, like this is my loft. This is my attic loft. Like yeah, like there's my old helmet there from when I was in the Air Force. But yeah, this is my loft. Like literally, I have like my Plex server on a 32-inch TV, on a 32-inch TV, like sitting over there. Like dude, like this is where I live.
Yeah.
This is where life happens. And like I'm not in the studio. I'm not like this is something that is completely doable, completely achievable. You know,
Yeah.
if you just put in some time.
You can't see it in here, but this is resting on my production laptop with two synthesizers behind this laptop here, drum kit over here,
Yeah,
Chaos Later, Chaos Pad over here, three guitars over here. Like this is all of it. Like this is where everything's done. And I think that it's cool that like that bedroom sound. I think that it got kind of played out for a little bit because bedroom meant like lo-fi, but like bedroom quit meaning innovative. Like the reason everybody dug lo-fi when it came out was because like, oh shit, you hadn't heard this. And so like I think it's cool that I hear so many people on the label who are like making interesting music. Um, I think that that's kind of should always be the goal. Like, why do I need to remake, a Modest Mouse song? Modest Mouse made that song better, So it's like
yeah,
if you're always trying to chase something somebody else did, and you're limiting yourself by like trying to fit in that way, I think that like oftentimes you're going to find yourself disappointed because I can write a million songs that are supposed to sound like Modest Mouse, and I promise you I'll never like it as much as a single Modest Mouse song. You know?
yeah. Plus, I think, at least for me personally, I'm at a position where I think I can make whatever I want, and like this is like, especially my last two records, like those are what I'm gonna do when I'm in a position where I can make whatever I want.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, I could try to do like the Premiere and P Rock or RZA thing, but like I said, I don't want to be figured out as far as like what my sound is. You
Right.
know, I think it came close with well, because I remember some people were like, man, that tambourine you use is getting you,
It was
you,
me.
you use that tambourine a lot, Nelson.
That
Will
was
you
me.
stop it?
I like the tambourine sound, but like not that much.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? It's not that it's bad, but it's just like one of those things where it's like, again, I really like diversity in those kind of sounds though. Like I think that that can be, especially in like electronic music, there's so much character that gets added through there that I really like hearing you experiment with like the higher end on the drums, all the like hi-hats and stuff with crashes, stuff like that. Even the snares, where you can kind of hear, like you were saying, like different sounds for different songs and stuff. It's
yeah.
cool.
My snare game has definitely stepped up with 4.0, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that album's crazy actually. Everything has been stepped up with 4.0.
Yeah, that's definitely a culmination of definitely like little tricks. Like uh, uh, don't underestimate the value of little things. That because little things add up to a fuller sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly,
Like
exactly. Like Mac Miller when he made Swimming, he invited a composer in and was like, "Yo, I want this to sound like water. That's why it's called Swimming." And like he composed, like Mac Miller composed all of the instrumentals and stuff, and then paid somebody to come in once they were done and basically figure out where it needed to be filled in. So he was like, add these like ambient sounds, add these extra little pieces that are going to really fill this album out and make it sound alive. And like if you listen to it, you can hear like little guitar riffs off in the distance, like back in behind your ears or something sometimes that just come in for like, I don't know, a second and you never hear it again. And you're just like, fuck, that's my favorite part of the song now because like you just notice it, and I love shit like that. I love when people are able to do that and like pay attention to those little details.
Yeah, and Mac Miller is one of those talents where he's just as good as a rapper as he was a musician. You know,
Oh yeah, yeah. He was a super talented instrumentalist. I was shocked at his guitar playing because I never realized how good he was at it. But he was like playing this crazy guitar solo behind his head on stage, and just some random video of him messing around. I was like, what the hell, dude? Like, he never, because he always said he sucked at guitar, and then you see him play, you're like, that is not what sucking at guitar looks like at all.
good guitar players are like the most modest, like
Yeah,
sons of bitches ever. Like, like, like Clarissa is like that.
yeah,
Like no, like you can play very well.
yeah,
like,
exactly. Like Darling
do you
Volume
not
5.
see yourself in the Trash Ghost video where you just like
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and like I guess though it's kind of one of those things too, where like Mac Miller's like one of his best friends with Thundercat. Like, yeah, compared to Thundercat, you do suck at like any instrument probably with strings on it. You know what I mean? Like, of course, like watch that dude play bass for 5 minutes, and you're like, fuck, I'm terrible. And like I feel like a lot of musicians think they suck because every musician knows somebody better than them at
well, your best friend is somebody who wrote them changes, which I think is like the
one
best
of the best
song.
songs ever
They're the
written.
best song, like the best song the last like 10 years.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That song's
Yeah,
incredible.
I
Yeah.
can see why you think everything you do is bad, but no.
Yeah, them changes is truly like them changes is the first song I heard by Thundercat, and I was just like, holy shit, who the fuck is this guy? Yeah, he's. I liked his new album better than I liked the album that them changes was on though, actually. So, but anyway, so finally, this is kind of in related to collaborators at this point, but like cover art.
Cover art, yeah. Knife Mom, who I've had a working relationship with for a little while. I forgot how I met this. I forgot how I met this woman. Because we have mutual Twitter friends, and I don't know if we met. No, I think we met through somebody who like. I think we met through somebody who neither of us actually have a relationship with anymore. You know,
Interesting.
yeah, I think we met through yeah, somebody who like pretty much like screwed her over, and I'm like, okay, but I'm not gonna do business with them. I'll do business with you, and yeah, because I no, I forgot how we got. I think I approached her when 2.0 was getting done, and the original artwork, well, the first artwork that I envisioned for it was not good. And then I think something was like, okay, let me just see what she can do. And she posted like this Instagram story of like her being like all bloody and shit like that. And
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, I want this photo shoot. And that's where 2.0 cover came from. 3.0 and 3.x came from the same shoot that I paid for. And always professional, always on time, always gets me exactly what I asked for, which is very rare in this business. Like to be
yeah, no, it
punctual
is.
and to deliver on your promise, like
Yeah,
that is very rare. And she sent me the photos. I really liked the 3.x one, probably more than I like the 3.0 one. And yeah, through GIMP because I'm not paying for Photoshop. And out came the artwork for 3.x and through in the artwork that I got coming in January. So, but
oh
yeah,
yeah, that one's actually my favorite one so far. The
yeah,
one for that single is really cool. I really like that.
yeah. It's and I believe it hasn't been announced yet, but the Kixie single is also from the same photo shoot as
Well,
well.
it's cool
So
because it almost looks like a bust of somebody's head, like a statue.
yeah,
Like I love that. It's so cool looking.
yeah, yeah, and like yeah, Knife Mom does good work. Like if you want something done, she will get it done for you. And like at this point, like I would actually call her a friend now, and yeah, it's just yeah, because it's rare. It's rare to find, especially artists. Like artists take forever, man. Like
And like
and not just like in like like a drawing sense, but just or like a photo sense, but like even musical artists, like whatever you tell them when you need your shit by, just multiply that by like 3.5, and you'll probably get it more accurate.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Like when I'm
so
gonna collaborate with people, I give them the song like 6 months before I need it and tell them I need it in 2 because I know it's gonna take 4.
yeah,
So it's like,
so yeah.
yeah,
So but for her to be like punctual, because I was like naive about how this business works when I first started, contacting her,
yeah,
and for her to be on time, I got spoiled because when I had somebody else, then like it took like 2 months more than than what I got. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it, but I'm not using this now. I just turned it in, like like
yeah.
like I have a deadline, But no, that's bad on me because I don't because that's how artists are, That's
Yeah,
just
you
the
just got to know it. You get used to it. Like I plan, like literally, everything for anything I'm doing, I'm always planning like way far in advance now because it makes it easier too. Of like, there's so much stress when you're like, fuck, I have this deadline and I haven't heard from this person in 2 weeks, and I've hit them up like 3 times, and I'm gonna have to figure something else out in the next 2 days or whatever, and it's like a terrible feeling. So like now I try to always be like way ahead of the game so that if something falls through, you have time, but also like people take a long time. So I guess finally, we have the thank you. So was there any thank yous you wanted to throw out there real quick to kind of end?
uh yeah, definitely probably the person that doesn't get credit for inspiring me, that should get more credit for inspiring me, is funeral homes. um like every funeral homes record is just amazing, and like even like
I
just
agree.
communicating back and forth, like man, like if I could redo some of these tracks after the Halloween split come out, I definitely would have, because fucking funeral homes. But yeah, that definitely funeral homes. Definitely Holy Kerouac, that entire project. From everything from Why'd You Have to Make This Weird to Closer Now More Than Ever, like that like those are two great records. Like Close Now More Than Ever is like one of my, I think it's like my number 2 for like 2020 records that I listen to. I think I listened to that record that many. I think the only one I listen to more is Cause, Descendants of Cain. Uh Yourself. Like we communicated a lot this past year. We
Yeah,
really have, and like yeah, I think our friendship has actually like strengthened in recent years, and like I've known you longer than I haven't known you at this point in time in my life.
yeah, that's crazy actually to think about.
Yeah,
Literally, yeah, like more than half of my life I've known
yeah,
you.
you know, like
Yeah.
definitely Shane, and man, that record's got to come out, man. But
Oh yeah,
yeah,
dude, I keep telling him, I'm like, listen, bro, come to my house. You know what? He came over. We worked out because he quarantines and I quarantine because he's compromised and I'm compromised. Whatever. Like, just to be clear, like I'm not just fucking around. Like he's the only person I hang out with. But like he came over. We played fucking video games. I should have been like, fuck that, dude. We're going upstairs. We're gonna record a song. Now we're gonna finish the vocals on one of those songs. Because like I did a lot of the stuff on the instrumentals, and then like I sent you. Was that a month ago now? Probably. I sent you tracks of like 3 of the instrumentals are just done. Like that's it. They're finished. So like, let's go. Like I want to see that album done so badly. Maybe you should bother him about it.
yeah, definitely Shane. I think Shane's been like this, been like a silent hero of the label, you
He
know.
does anything related to money and math, and
You
that's really
know,
important.
oh, man, yeah, definitely Alex from Ricer. That for even like being the first person on the show,
Yeah.
that meant a lot to me, and just like that was a great conversation I had with him, like just being like a gentleman to me, like that's. And plus, yeah, Alex was like like the other person that like referenced test one from People Under the Stairs when talking about my music. So that was pretty fun to hear a kid that young that knows like People Under the Stairs. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, Alex does have a very advanced knowledge of music.
Yeah, I mean, but just like that. Well, like Yeah, Alex and Kixie, they need to make more music together.
I think that, yeah, like if they did become a band, honestly, like that would be like that's the real thing that needs to happen is those two need to start a band together.
Yeah, and yeah, and definitely Kixie for letting me use your music, and for like because that her album definitely made me think about mixing differently.
Her album's so good.
Yeah, because
That new one is like
it's mixed
sounds
to
so good.
it's to perfection. It's a
Yeah, it's
literally
amazing.
one, yeah. So yeah, that album definitely made me think about mixing way differently. I think like especially like we because I've been listening to like a lot of Dr. Dre lately, and like how amazingly mixed that is in the studio, and but like when you clash that with how amazingly like Kixie's album is done, and not to mention Alex's bedroom,
I was gonna say
right?
in his
Like
bedroom.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that album sounds beautiful. Like everything gets across very well. Like it's not even just like it's that's mixed to a point where it's like that sounds luxurious. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so
Yeah. She's just like the amount of talent that she has in so many different areas is like unbelievable. Like literally it's unbelievable. That she's like so good at mixing, so good at every instrument that she plays, so good at like just having an ear for like what's going to be catchy, like she knows how to like write a hook. Like
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
she's just like yeah. The one song, I just have this one song that she wrote and it's stuck in my head. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I'll have to look and see.
I mean, if what Alex says about "Gonna Die," where he just tried the guitars in the vocal in his vocals, everything else I have to believe is Kixie, and
Yeah, no,
and
that's all
and and
Kixie.
and, and, that, and that's like that's amazing. Like
Left Lane, by the way. That's the song I'm thinking of.
okay,
Left Lane's been stuck in my head since the day I heard it.
but yeah, man, but yeah, definitely Kixie because like I think she actually sent me a message during this interview actually because I sent her a message about doing this show actually, but yeah, definitely, yeah. You, Funeral Homes, Alex, Clarissa, Kixie, Alex, definitely, they definitely have been in my heads this summer as these songs were getting made. Definitely, all your guys' records have been like, okay, this is what I'm not necessarily competing with, but this is what the label's been putting out, and I gotta at least match the
Yeah,
quality
yeah,
of
you
of
want to fit
this,
it. I feel the
you
same
know,
way.
you know.
Yeah,
So
like every time I hear somebody's album, I'm like, man, now that this is out, I can't like go and put out some bullshit. Like I'm not,
yeah, yeah.
like,
Yeah,
uh,
Lavender House kicked my ass. Like
yeah, Lavender House kicked all of
I,
them.
I felt so insecure about 2.0 after Lavender House came out, and oh
It was
man,
it was a turning point for the label for sure, but I do think that like this year was really solid. And amazingly, despite the fact that I do think that this year was really solid, I think that everything I've heard so far for next year is like way better. So like the fact that like every single person who put out music this year is putting out something better next year is pretty crazy to me.
oh yeah, man, yeah. It's just to be still on the upward trajectory, like with the quality that we have now, is it, it's amazing, and like I'm at a point where I'm like sitting on tracks and I'm releasing songs like, oh shit, man, I'm releasing this now. Just wait until they hear what I got done yesterday.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like even the song I finished like this week, I can't wait to put that fucker out, man. I really can't. Like
Well, yeah, and you and I have kind of had this parallel boost of creativity, and it's been kind of nice to have somebody else kind of like. I mean, we're basically just doing what we've always done, sending tracks back and forth to each other. But it's pretty neat that
yeah, we've
like,
been doing that for years. Yeah.
yeah, like a 12 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And like it's pretty cool that you and I are still doing it right now, and like you and I both have just like recorded 3 albums in a year. So it's like I put out one, but obviously I've sent you two more, and then like hearing your new stuff, it's just nice to have somebody who's kind of in that same wavelength right now, who's just been kind of just like constantly trying new stuff out and being creative. Like it's nice just to have someone to to do that with, you know, who's kind of like not like, oh man, I wish I was recording, and then you feel like an asshole because you're like, fuck, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like make you feel bad that you haven't recorded something in 5 months. You know, like, it's nice to do it with somebody who's like, yo, I just made a new song today too, 1 minute. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna send it to you. You
Oh
know?
yeah, that's another thing that has changed. Like the length of time that I make a song, and because I think that's another lesson I learned from like Earl Sweatshirt and Kanye West is like short albums, short songs, like get
Yeah.
get what you got out of your system, and
Well, you know that's my favorite now. Like that's like
yeah,
my thing. Like I just believe that songs should not be longer than they need to be. Like I hear so many songs now where like this would have been a better song if, you know, it were shorter.
I mean, dude, there's straight up albums that could that can be shorter, like
Well, so like I
like
just listened to so maybe we could cut the actual like let's cut the
oh yeah, let's end this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll make sure. No.